Mr. Mohammed, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
That's okay. So, hello everyone. Ankidu Training Team would like to welcome you. We are thrilled to have you join us today for our webinar on basic reservoir management. My name is Mohammed and I will be your host for this session. The webinar will be presented by our speaker, Mr. Mohammed Al-Jawhar. Mr. Mohammed Al-Jawhar is a senior petroleum engineer with proven expertise in petroleum engineering, production management, and the development of strategic action plans. He excels in streamlining processes, delivering innovative solutions, and identifying opportunities. He is adept at risk mitigation and consistently generates and reviews approximately 20 job initiation documents, JIDs, and 15 statement of requirements source annually to ensure smooth workflows. With an in-depth understanding of engineering and production protocols, procedures, and best practices, Mr. Al-Jawhar is an articulate communicator who fosters strong relationships with team members, senior leadership, and stakeholders. Before we begin, here are a few quick housekeeping notes. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box and we will answer them during the Q&A session at the end. Please note that this session is being recorded. During the presentation, we will share a link in the chat box that will allow you to join Ankidu Training on LinkedIn, Facebook, and WhatsApp. The certificate registration form link will be provided at the end of the presentation. Certificates will be issued within 3 days of receiving the necessary information through this link only. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Mohammed Al-Jawhar. Mr. Mohammed Al-Jawhar, you can introduce yourself in detail. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your introduction, and thank you again for your invitation. I would like to thank you all the attendees who attend this webinar. I'm Mohammed Al-Jawhar, starting my career in oil and gas industry since 2001 in Basra Oil Company, which is located in south of Iraq. And Basra Oil and Gas Company is a big company, around 40,000 employees. Started in PBT lab, and then moved to petroleum engineering department in field monitoring section. I worked there for almost 4 years, and then moved to reservoir department, work in reservoir planning and development section, and for reservoir monitoring section. And then moved to Rumaila Operating Organization, which is a joint venture of BP Company and PetroChina and Basra Oil Company, BOC. I've worked there for 7 years in oil production section, being deputy manager of reservoir management section there, and moved again to Basra Oil Company, engineering inspection and asset management. I will not go further for introduce myself. I'm going to now start our webinar. Hopefully you get all your expectation, to meet all your expectation from it. So our webinar today, I'm going to discuss and explain the main concepts of basic reservoir management. So we will we'll go to this agenda. We'll define what is reservoir management, what is the reservoir management team, what they do, the oil field development, what the process of oil field development, in summary, the oil recovery techniques that's need for the oil field development, and after reservoir monitoring techniques we are followed to monitor our field and reservoir, and production monitoring, of course, and forecasting for future production and enhance oil recovery. So why we need reservoir management? This is the question. What is the purpose of reservoir management? Why we all the companies around the globe, focusing on reservoir management? You know, this is approach for optimizing exploration. You need the management to know what you have in hand and how you can develop it and get most of it. So in terms of hydrocarbon, of course. So reservoir management dealing with exploration, the first step to the production and abandonment for any reservoir. So how you can manage all these things as asset integrity in whole term. So integration between the technical, economic, and operation strategies is going to lead, which is what we have and what we need is as maximizing our recovery as oil and gas in the field. And this is, of course, in terms of minimizing the cost and less harmful for the environment and impact the environment, and following all the regulations for any country. So this is in simple way what we have as a reservoir management, but if we can define it, it's a dynamic process, of course. So reservoir can be changed. So we have a plan, and we all the things it's under our plan and in the process, but it's dynamic because you know there's every time there is a change, so you have to adapt with that change. How you can adapt with that change? It's going under the umbrella of reservoir management. So we have to collect, analyze, and validate all the data and the information you have to follow, and you gather and you process, and then because you need to the data to have the performance data you need in terms of optimal reservoir development and depletion plan. So your goal is the depletion plan in afterwards, and the final goal. So how you can deplete your field, and you have in terms of as we said in terms of cost and the environment. So you have to think about what you have to follow. So where you have to put in your mind from the first place. So reservoir management prime objective, it's about economic optimization and of which oil and gas recovery costs. So starting from identifying and defining all individual reservoirs. So you know there is in the field there is a multi-layers, and each layer you have to define which your target from the first place, where is the reserves, where you have to drill, and then how you can produce this. So defining all individual reservoirs, particular field, and then what is the physical properties? You know, every reservoir has its characteristics and the PVT and all the other things. And in terms of physical, you know, sometimes you have to drill in the deep sea. You have sometimes on the offshore. So sometimes near some places, near cities. So you have to think about what you have as definition of these individual reservoirs. Then you can go to deducing past and predict future. So what does that mean? You have a reservoir to be developed. So you have to think about what information you need to get in hand and predict the future of this reservoir and how you can produce from this reservoir. Minimizing drilling and of uncertainties and unnecessary wells, of course, you have to drill each well in exactly where is it should be located, and you know, of course, from the defining the initiation term of data you have, what should be produced from that exact well. and from exact reservoir. So what is the reservoir performance afterwards will be after drilling these wells. So you don't have to drill unnecessary wells because that will cost you, and this is not be cost effective. Defining and modifying as required wellbore and surface facilities. So every step and every stage in your field development, you have to think what should you do in terms of installing new facilities, or removing or adding extra wells, removing converting from type to type, I mean in terms of injector or producer, etc. So these have to be defined, and then if you have any modifying through your process of depletion plan. Initiation operating controls at the proper time. Of course, this is very important because you have to know how to operate your the field or reservoir. And the final point is considering all written economic, environmental, and legal factors. You know, some companies, it's global companies, and they have to follow all the legal factors in that country. So what is the environmental situation? What is the economic situation? How you can benefit from these things in terms of and under umbrella of reservoir management. So this is the prime objective of our reservoir management. That's why we need it. And we can explain some aspects of reservoir management. So let's start with reservoir management team. So you know, reservoir management, it's not a one person can hold these things together. It's need a huge team, starting from collecting all the data needed. So you need geological data, geophysical data, engineering, financial. So all these have to be gathered in first place and have to be QA, QC, because otherwise you will have a wrong decision. And what's the tools you need to gather these data? Maybe fracturing, topography, seismic data, data acquisition, logging, any type of tools. You have to define it well before you start using it, because you have to consider what is the cost and the environmental impact and everything else. So, and the technology, of course. So some technology is very cost effective, and some technology you have to think about which is exactly you have to use. Otherwise, you are losing your efforts and time and money. So seismic, geological, geostatistics, engineering, computer, environmental, everything else in terms of technology and under technology. So you know, these times we have many new technologies and innovations in the oil and gas industry. People, so most important part in this integration management, people. So how you can hire people, can handle and operate all these things in one hand and in an effective way. So the management, I mean, in geoscience, engineers, financial team, and the field team who can manage all the wells and facilities in the field. So you have these integration management, the most important things in terms of reservoir management. You have to think about and starting from the first point to the others, and all these integration in terms of management is connected together to have a good decision. So starting backing again to what is reservoir management team, you can have all these types and roles inside the reservoir management team. You have to deal with the surfaces, for example, for instance, the land in terms of which is belong to the economics, how we can define the cost, everything else regarding what you should drill, what you should construct as a new construction of facilities, how you can produce these reservoir from the reservoir. I mean, the wells producing or water injection. Is it water injection or gas injection? What is the injection profile? So all these can work together in terms of reservoir management as a one team. So field development, oil field development. So it's starting from exploration phase and go through the engineering and contractor, and then the commercial phase. So starting from exploration, you have to think about what is the risk of developing this field. You have certainly there is some risk when you have drilled some wells, you have developed the field and start producing. You have to consider what is the risk, because it will be connected to the economics, of course, and commercial of the field. Is it you have the right investment, or you have to think about think again, and develop your depletion plan. So regional geology, location, where is it located? Having said that, is it in the sea or onshore? So then you can calculate what is the reserves and what is the in terms of developing this field, and then you can, if it's agreed with what you have expectation, what you plan to have from this reservoir, you can go to the another phase, which is in engineering and contractors, because we've seen some companies doing some engineering work by themselves, but they delivering the other things to another contractor in terms field services and well services. So these kind of data, these kind of information have to be collected, how it's connected each other. So for instance, the drilling department, it will connect it to the drilling cost. That's pretty sure, and pretty fine. There's the scheme selection of how you can drill wells in your field, and what you have to, how many wells you have to be drilled, what is the total depth of these wells, how you can develop the field in terms of having another wells to be drilled. So, and then you can move to the commercial factors. You have to be considered what is the net present value, for instance, afterwards. So in terms of field development, so there's a couple of stages you have to be followed. It should be followed. Otherwise, you can mix between them and don't have what you intend to do and what you have expected to have in terms of commercial benefit from this oil field. So back again to the field development phase. So we have 3 phases have to be followed strictly: appraisal, and select and define. So you have to think about which location you have to develop, why you have to produce from certain reservoirs. So you have to appraise every single data. Having said that, QA, QSC for any data you have in hand. What is the missing data? So you have to think about the uncertainty in terms of the data. Then you have to think about, is it good to go forward and select this field? Then you can define what is the main objective and how to develop in a right way for your field. So you can have to finalize your project. Otherwise, you have missing data. That's what we have, what we said early about the reservoir management. It's a dynamic. So you can adjust every step and change it, adapt to the what you have missed. So after the let's say the firm decision making, and after you have defined everything, you can move to the most important part, which is executing your development plan. So executing means every single step of drilling, connecting wells, putting pipes on the ground, having facilities, exporting the oil to the markets, etc. So after executing, you have to operate it, and this is what we need to discuss today. So how you can operate it in a good manner. So all these things you have to think about those connected together, from drilling, number of drill wells, how many wells you have to drill, is it the full capacity or not, what is the technology, for instance, is it in subsea, so FPSO, which is stands for floating production storage and offloading, is it suitable for our offshore wells? Is it enough to export our oil to the market? Is it not? So how to think about the technologies needed to operate your field, and exporting. What is the pipeline sizes, length, etc. How you can manage the pipelines, because you know there is a lot of things related to the pipelines, and there is, for instance, the corrosion and another environmental facts. And if it's offshore, how you can connect your wells to these, for instance, the platforms and offshore. So you know there's some example of failed and have a huge impact on the environment. So what's the development realization, early production? Is it not? How you can fast track this production and process requirements? Do you need any gas lift or gas injection, etc.? So all these things, it's just examples how you can operate in terms of field development phase. So you have to basic reservoir engineering and history matching. So you have to run some tools, to use some tools in terms of reservoir engineering, and then you have history matching, and you have to, all these connected data from the first phase when you collected it, about the geometry of the reservoir, architecture, rocks properties, fluid properties, what you have in hand, what is the rock properties, for instance, for this reservoir, what is the fluid properties for reservoir, and then go to prediction and economic evaluation. So it's very important. If you don't have some of these data, you cannot have the right prediction and right economic evaluation for your field. So select optimum development plan. You have to do it very carefully and get all the information needed to select the optimum development plan. So what is the strategies to get all these data, how you to follow it, what is the time bound for it, and what is your final goal, what is the maximum recovery, for instance, maximum net present value, other things, it's long period, short period. So in terms of time duration for the project. So any project you have, there's a time bound, because we will see later in the slides, because can define the stages of the field in terms of the development of this field. So let's see this illustration. So you can see from exploration and appraisal stage and going to the first production startup. And between those two things, we already explained it. So from the first step of what we have in terms of the location and reserves, and you do all the calculation and gather all the data from as a geological model, and then start up production from the first day. So you have the first phase of your field development plan. So you have all the facilities installed, you have all the wells drilled, and all the pipelines on ground, and you have the people working, and you know the team. So how you can manage it effectively to go, and then you see after a certain time in If you go back, there's a prediction when can you have the second phase. So how you can starting the maintenance process in terms of pressure maintenance, facilities maintenance, etc. So this is the main point for the, let's say, at the end phase one for the field development. And what is the second phase? How you can, how long it will last. So for instance, there's must be a plateau rate. The plateau rate is starting from this point to this point. What is the plateau rate? It's when you have a stable production from the field. So how long it will take? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 10 years? So you have defined the plateau rate of your field. So after that, if you focus on this point, the decreasing in start declining the production from the field, and then you have to reach certain point when you have to take a decision and starting the second recovery, and then it will be repeated to the third recovery and until you reach the abandonment and decommissioning for CO2 storage. So it's time bound, of course, and there's every stages from the field development. There's a certain process we have to follow, and don't forget dynamic. So dynamic may be changed. So for instance, the plateau rate may be changed. We can extend it, or there is a certain environment and regulation. Maybe it's make it shorter. So we don't know. We have to follow the prediction plan, what we have, and then we can decide if it's acceptable, how we can extend it, or from this point to this point, how long it will take to start the other phase from our field development plan. So let's think about all these things we have, and it's on the ground. So our field, it's everything installed. So we have to think about the fluid flow and porous media, because you drilled some wells. So how is it connected or not? The flow from the reservoir to the wells, and the flow again from wells to the facilities and to the storage tanks, and then export to the markets. So it's an integration between all these type of facilities and assets in our field. So we have to think about the reservoir description, how many layers have, how many, what is the amount of reserves have, what is the type of rocks, what is the type of fluids, and then we can decide where the optimum in the structure we can drill our wells to get the most of maximum recovery and maximum production from the field. So how many wells, where it should be located, to which depth, what is the facilities, what is the Christmas tree type, what is the casing tubing type, where should be the perforation is, and the lines, I mean, in terms of, I mean, the flow lines, what is the type of, if it's secondary recovery, when you should convert some wells to produce as a ESP, for instance, how many first stages you have, what is the operating pressures in the first stages, what is the capacity of your facilities, is it 2-phase or 3-phase, what is the storage tank can handle per day. So all these aspects you have to think about when you predict your reservoir performance. So you have a huge amount of data, and you need a good decision making, and you have to manage it effectively. So the facilities, transportation, and the markets, because sometimes you have a bad, or let's say a low quality of oil. So, and you have sometimes a a very good quality of oil. So which markets it goes to where? You have to think about everything to design a maximum value, to have the maximum value. Okay, so reservoir monitoring, there's the tools. Sampling, stimulation, saturation load, material balance. You have to think what type of monitoring techniques you have to do. For instance, we've tried all of these techniques before, and each type of it has its own inputs to the reservoir monitoring and reservoir management. So let's take an example for reservoir monitoring techniques, which one of it's wireline formation testing. Is it open hole or case hole? Well testing, production logging. So each one of it give us a certain information. What is the needed information? What is the missing information? Why we run like these tools, for instance? What's the information expected after running these tools? Is it formation pressure? What is the multi-layer system you can have? What is the nodal analysis after you do the production logging? For instance, for wells testing, is it you are looking for the pressure, permeability, the skin, and drainage area? So all these things you have to think about in terms of reservoir monitoring techniques, because and we are saying that the cost is very important, and the resources you have to use these type of reservoir monitoring techniques. So for instance, if we take the wireline formation testing as an example, what we can expect from running this tool. So it's to provide accurate measurements of formation pressure and fluid samples. So for instance, where the oil and gas contact may be, we are looking for. So we can define that, so we can keep away from the water and start only producing from the oil sands, and keep away as well as from gas, not depleted the reservoir too high. So understanding the characteristics of our reservoir, optimizing the maximum recovery from our reservoir, from our field, to have the performance of our reservoir in maximum and long time with low cost. So for formation testing, we can expect like this information. And the other one is the data integration. So data integration is very important. So if you don't have like this data, accurate data, interpreted very well, you have to think about the people behind like this interpretation. Is it accurate? Is it not? Is it they are qualified to get all the information needed, and we're removing all the noise in the data. So otherwise you can have a wrong decision afterwards of getting the wrong, for instance, oil water contact. So maybe it should be here, but you go deeper and perforate this interval because you don't have the accurate data, and you have it almost here in this interval, so you get all water came to your facilities. So this is a very bad decision example if you have a wrong data and you have not qualified people after analyzing the data. And we don't forget the using of new innovation and new technologies, for instance, the using of AI and machine learning and Python softwares. So it can help us if you don't have another software to run to get integration of this data. Saturation logging, of course, we know we know the importance of the saturation logging, and what is can give us in terms where the hydrocarbon is. We can run saturation log to know exactly where is the oil level inside our reservoir, in which formation, for how long, for how the depth, I mean, for this interval, how we can manage this water breakthrough if we have it, and we can avoid to perforate in another places. When we have a good hydrocarbon reserves in our reservoir. So how you can manage the water breakthrough, what type of saturation log you have to run. You have to think about, is it sigma or carbon oxygen or PNN or any type of saturation log. So why you have to run it? What is the formation type? Is it sandstone, limestone, etc.? And where the well is located, how you can manage before you run. If you think there's a connection, so if let's say this is a well and this is another one, so is there any connection between them? So if I would like to run saturation log, what I can expect, is it same as this one? We have to know every lithology of the formation, and then we can decide, because we cannot run saturation log in every well because we have a budget for that. So we think about why we need to run this well, saturation log in this well, not in this well. So we have to think about what is the strategy behind choosing well than another one. So saturation log, it's one of the data it's provided to our softwares. So from these data, we can build an example, a good example of our simulation model, and think where we can have horizontal wells, where we have vertical wells, why we have vertical, not horizontal, and where is it located in the field. And you can see some places already flooded, some places is promoting and have a good reserves in it. So is it in the crest on the places? You have to think about the information you have to input to your simulation before running. So this is another example for saturation logging. So you can think about the time you run the first saturation log, and then the second one, a third one, and why you are running, what are you expecting? Is there any, for instance, is there any water injection profile you have? So if you have it, you can see this is the phase against the producers. This is waterfront can be moved, and this waterfront can be expected. And when we have all this information gathered from this saturation log, from starting from the certain date to the now date, so we have a good indication how the water is moved inside our reservoir, and how we can manage it effectively and keep away our production from the water breakthrough. So the production monitoring and forecasting. If we move to this part, we can think about how we can develop our production from our reservoir. So it depends. As mentioned before, the plateau rate, how it's long, and when it start declining. What is the water profile? What is the cumulative water production? What is the cumulative oil production? What is our GOR and our reservoir pressure? So we should follow some certain monitoring techniques and forecasting to predict what is our field going to be in 5 or 10 years. So we have to think where it should be from the first phase of production, because starting from the first day, you have a time to reach the maximum and then you have the stable production rate, and then you can decline. So what is the shape of your profile production from your reservoir? You have to think about the field decline rate, how it will be long, and why started declining the production. What is the technique you have to follow to know exactly when you have this starting time. So you have to gather all the information and generate the prediction to know exactly how you can keep it stable as it is. So one of the techniques, it's what wellhead pressure and water cut performance. So you have a certain well and perforated in your reservoir. So you have to follow all the data in hand because of the new technologies, sensors installed, for instance, SCADA system. So in your hand, a powerful tool to see what is your performance of your well. What is the pressure, upstream, downstream pressure? What is the water cut? Is it effective? Do you can notice the water cut? Is it stable? Do you have any peaks? What it is happened in terms of upstream pressure and downstream pressure? What is regarding regarding upstream temperature and downstream temperature? These indicators can indicate the well performance and reservoir performance. So if you don't have enough data, or you cannot manage and highlight where should be maybe something related to this performance, you can starting losing your well because you don't have the relevant data. So you need to know where you can ask for extra data. What is the exact data to keep your well in good shape and performance? So, you know, production monitoring, you have to use the nodal analysis. There is some software and tools to predict reservoir pressure and bottom hole flowing pressure, and then you can predict the wellhead performance and all the data. Where is the pressure loss inside your system? And how you can manage is it related to reservoir pressure, or there's something inside your well bore in terms of skin, etc. How you can remove this skin, for instance, and keep your well flowing. So this is one of the type of the data you have to think about, where you have a loss in is it flow line or tubing, or if you have total loss in your system, production system. So production monitoring and forecasting, is it we can say there's another type of it's not maybe not a water drive, maybe it's a gas drive reservoir. So what is the recovery factor afterwards? You have to think about how you can keep it as it is, as planned from the first oil from your reservoir. So let's take another example of reservoir monitoring, dominant flow direction. So some wells, for instance, these injected oil water inside your reservoir. So we can see some wells, produce wells, there's impact because of the water injection, and some wells very close, but there is no any reaction from these wells regarding the production. So some wells, if we calculate, and the flow meters can suggest how many barrels we inject inside our reservoir. So some wells have a good performance, some wells don't have, and some wells we cannot see anything from it. So why there is a difference in behavior between those wells? Why the nearest one, is it connected or not? Is it the same formation we have injection profile? Is it not? Why we have a good impact for some wells where one another is not? So these kind of the data we have to gather and think about in terms of reservoir monitoring. So let's see this in another example. When you have a production starting from those wells, and then afterwards some years, there's a water breakthrough from some wells, the others starting for production and in good performance. And when you keep moving and in production, those wells almost flooded, and the other wells started flooding, having some water cuts. And then you can see from final results, most of those wells affected by the water injection, and some wells not. So you have to think about how you can manage and keep the water cut as minimal as possible. Taking another example, if you have to think when you select the well location, you have to think about which layer, which depth, and the production from the starting date, and how many wells, and what is the oil in place. So all the data you should be considered to know exactly how much you can produce from your field. So why? This is the assumption for economic value. We already discussed, talked about the economic net present value from your field. So from your reservoir. So what is the current reservoir oil price, and the other factors playing to have a good or give you a good oil price, and what is the factor you have to consider in terms of nowadays oil price. So what is you have, for instance, the taxes you have to pay, operating cost, etc. So you should think about all the economic side from your reservoir. So depletion plan is very important, having said that, because otherwise when you select some wells is not located in good reservoir area, you cannot expect a good performance from those wells. So you have to consider the initial well location, where should be located and why is it connected or not, how many MBD per can produce. So what's the maximum oil recovery from this reservoir, and why, how you can manage this reserve for a long period of time. So this is very important in terms of field performance. You have to consider where it should be abundant and for long period, without any like these peaks, because maybe these peaks related to some problems in the reservoir, and your reservoir and your field performance. So you need to keep it as flat as possible. Otherwise, you have to consider when you have maybe change in some areas of field development and reservoir management strategy. So back again to the well location, we already mentioned something about dynamic. So reservoir management is a dynamic piece of information regarding when you can convert some wells for injectors, some wells can be abandoned, some wells need to be activated, some wells to keep it as it is, some wells need to increase the performance of it. So how you can manage the reserve, because if you see the reserves become less and less, so what is the water flooding performance, where we have to put our injection wells, what is the pattern for injection, and why is it connected, which layer has to be enhanced, etc. These kind of information we have to think about. So then we can move to the next part as oil recovery techniques. What we have in terms of primary recovery as natural flow or artificial lift. Is it used? Is it important to have any artificial lift? Because some wells lose their power of producing. So we should do artificial lift Is it ESP or any type of artificial lift we can use? Then we can think about when we have to maintain our pressure to go for second recovery as water flooding or pressure maintenance. So we have to think about our overall recovery. And then you can know some fields in terms of development, go to the treasury recovery for using as a gas injection or thermal injection or any chemicals like polymers for nowadays. So like this information is very important, but each stage it's take a time. Each stage is take a time. So how you can manage each stage and for how long? What is the tools you need? What is the information to go from this stage to this stage? Why you go to the third stage? What is the benefit? Is it to maximize recovery, or you have to keep it as it is for a long time? What is the economic value? Is it a permanent contract? Is it a time-bound contract? What is the what do you think about the depletion plan of this field? And is it the regulation of the country you have working in? So like this information, it's very important, and all these kind of information you can see it in the reservoir management plan. So as mentioned, secondary recovery, is it gas or water injection, and where you have to put your wells to get the most of the well you need, and how you can maintain your pressure. So I think we reach our final slide from our presentation. Thank you for your listening, and if you have any question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Please let's see the chat box in order to answer the questions. I think there is a question. You can read it, please. Is there any method or way to use to predict the water conning, etc.? Please read the question and try to answer it. Thank you.
Yeah, let's start from is there a specific period to run the saturation tool or not? A specific period, what do you mean by specific period? The saturation tool, it's we have all in every reservoir management plan, there is a surveillance strategy plan. So for instance, if you have if you see back to the slides, and remember the slide where the water cuts, it's rising. It's from 1 year, is it in 2 year, or is it 3 year? It depends on the surveillance plan, and it depends on your reservoir performance. So sometimes we're noticing from the well performance, some wells have water cuts. It's rise rapidly. So why is it that? Is it for single well? Is it breakthrough for single well? Or is it a phenomena because there's a 3, 4, 10 wells having the same performance of having the same evidence of water cut rise? So you have to think about your strategy. There is, for instance, a strategy put for the whole year as a surveillance, and it can be reviewed because we already said saying there is a dynamic, there's a new values, so there's a new change in your reservoir performance. So when you have to adapt your reservoir surveillance strategy plan. We need session about, okay, not certificate. Is there any method or way to use to predict the water conning phenomena when it will be occur in a specific well? Yeah, it's the same thing. When you run saturation log, when you need to know, and because you already have the values from the first date. You run your open hole logs and you have the core data. So you know your reservoir and your fluid properties and rock properties. And then you can, when you see any evidence, there is a water coning, you have to do your search and see what is the tools you have to use to predict this water coning. So there is no certain answer, but you have to run your simulation and put the right data from your saturation log and coring. How can avoid breakthrough? Yeah, you cannot avoid a breakthrough, but you can start thinking about where you can drilling your wells. So when you have to adding new wells to maximize your recovery from your reservoir, from your field, how you can develop this field. So you can think about how can you avoid this water breakthrough from your saturation strategy plan when you do the reservoir surveillance plan. So you can know for instance the performance for each well, and when you have the integration of your information and all the wells, you can predict from your software, if there is a certain amount of water cut start raising and why you have to do your calculation again and see where from which layer and why is it producing. Is it related to some aspects in terms of reservoir performance? During a CO2 injection phase, what would be the recommended well location and specific number of injection well to optimize CO2 injection? There's no certain answers for this question, because if your strategy to maximize the recovery from the reservoir and starting injection gas to your field and your reservoir, you have to all the data gathered beforehand and before starting injection. So we've seen some wells. There's I didn't have any information before about gas injection because in Iraq we don't have gas injection. We have water injection, and we've seen from the well performance profile where is it the water injection and pattern used and how is connected to the certain layers and what is afterwards performance of those layers. Is it connected or not? Is there any fault between it? And then you can optimize CO2 injection. Is it need to inject more, inject less? What is the purities of your oil? How you can manage the impurities in the oil extracted, produced? All these factors you have considered to optimize CO2 injection in your field. Why do we use immiscible gas during gas injection secondary recovery? I'm not sure about the answer of this question, to be honest, because we didn't use immiscible gas during gas injection. So I don't have relevant answer to this question. Explain carbon oxygen logging. The carbon oxygen saturation log is to distinguish between water and oil and gas inside the wellbore. So we run carbon oxygen to know where we have water and where we have hydrocarbon. So we can provide you with some slides explaining what is the process on a procedure for carbon oxygen logging. Is there an approach to predict reservoir boundaries rather than or before drilling appraisal wells? predict reservoir boundaries. It came all the data you have from the first phase. It's related to the 4D seismic. So from the seismic models and geology models, you can predict your reservoir boundaries. And then you can predict where you have to drill your wells, because when you calculating your reserves, you exactly know where the crest is, how many reserves you have, where most of the hydrocarbon is located. So then you can go to the next phase. When you run your simulation models, you know that simulation model regarding the data you have from the coring, of course, you can know where exactly to drill your wells. Does the change from the first recovery to the second is determined when study phase before the oil is extracted or during working? It's both. Actually, it's both, because you predict from the first phase when it could be starting declining from your reservoir, from your field, and then you can, for certain time, you can see that if there's a change, you can adapt or adjust your strategy to go the second phase. Difference between decline curve analysis method and material balance or calculating volume. Yeah, I have some slides I can provide you with to explain when you have to use and which method to use in terms of decline curve analysis. One of the good software we have used is OFM from Schlumberger. There you can use the decline curve analysis and how you can predict what is the performance of your field. Any idea about how many undeveloped fields might be discovered in Iraq? Oh, there's a lot, I think. And you can see from time to time there's a new contract to develop new fields. For instance, in Anbar, Ramadi, there is a gas field, in Kirkuk, in Basra as well, in middle of Iraq. So there's a couple of undiscovered or undeveloped fields discovered, where we can find the recording. Okay, sorry. During network simulation using PipeSim software, there are manual cannot flow. Why? I don't know. What do you mean by during network simulation? You have to see what you have in terms of your inputs. So if you have any kind of data is not accurate, not matched with the real performance of the wells, maybe you can see there's no flow from those wells. So you have to go back to your data and see, because I've seen some example of this, but we didn't use PipeSim, we used Prosper. So maybe I will suggest there is something wrong with your completion. Which software is it proper in order to simulate hydraulic fracture and simulate dynamic model? You can ask a reservoir engineer, but most of the cases they use Petrel and Eclipse, as far as I know. So I think this all the questions we have. I don't know if anyone else have any other question.
Okay, Mr. Mohammed, I think there is a last question. Did
Okay.
you deal with velocity dependent relative permeability?
You deal with velocity dependent. What did he mean by this question? I don't know.
Okay, he can raise his hand and we will give him a permission. I think Muhammad Mohsin, if you need Muhammad to
You
speak
mean
with.
relative permeability in the reservoir, and when you have a good permeability index, and which layer and which type of formation. If he meant that, I think yes, because you have all the information from the coring and the other logs, and you can see if there is a good permeability. And when if you have any trouble with your reservoir performance, you can adjust the relative permeability regarding that.
Excuse me, Mr. Mohammed. Hi for everyone, and thank you for your lovely presentation. I mean, with the relative permeability dependent velocity, we have a gas condensate reservoir, and the relative permeability curve is not steady. It depends on the velocity. Because we have a coupling effect, an inertia effect can convert the value of relative permeability. Did you deal with these or not? Do you have any information how to model these? And
what software you use?
it's Petros.
Petrol.
Yes. How
Okay.
can we model it? Because it's not a certain value or curves and implemented.
Okay. If you have the complete case, if you'd like to send it through Dr. Mohammed, and I can discuss it with some friends from Reservoir and back to you as soon as possible.
Okay,
I will be
Mr.
glad
Mohammed.
to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mohammed, I think we need to finish the session today. So at the end of today's webinar on basic reservoir management, thank you for all who joined us today. I mean, joined Ankidu Training today. We hope you found this session informative and valuable. Hope to see you at the future events. Mr. Mohammed Al-Jawhar, we appreciate your efforts and your interesting presentation. Finally, thank you again and have a nice time. Bye.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for the attendance.
Thank you.